Mt. Gox, the very mention of the now defunct exchange, brings shivers to the Bitcoin world and tears to those who lost their crypto in 2014. But all is not lost, says Brock Pierce. In fact, Brock's on a mission to make Mt. Gox victims whole again with the project Gox Rising. Today, Brock is joining us along with attorney Andrew Rossow for an epic discussion of how he intends to help revive Mt. Gox and bring equity back to those who have been burned by the bankrupt exchange. It's said that those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Well, that goes for the crypto world as well. So let's explore the annals of Bitcoin, learn from it, and see if we can fix this stuff here on episode number 253 of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
Welcome, friends and enemies, who we hope will soon become friends. I don't know that we have any enemies, actually, but if there's that one guy out there, we love you.
No friends and enemies, no friends and enemas. We don't want any of that.
It's the Bad Crypto Podcast. I'm Joel Comm. He's Travis Wright, and we've got a great show for you today, welcoming Mr. Brock Pierce back for a second appearance on the show.
Yeah, this is exciting, actually. The very first episode we had with Brock Pierce, he really opened up and was sharing a lot of great stuff from his past that I think a lot of people didn't know. I know Joel and I left that podcast going, wow, I don't know that we knew a lot of that stuff about Brock Pierce and how he had led digital currencies with gaming way back even in the mid-90s. And so, he's an OG when it comes to virtual currencies, and he's on a mission now to help create this phoenix for Mount for Mt. Gox and help it rise once again. So we're going to be talking about that today. Also, we're going to be asking him some questions around some crazy things that were said about him on the internet. So we pull no punches here at the Bad Crypto Podcast. We want to ask questions and we want answers, right, Mr. Joel Comm?
He's an OG, and also in the social media world, LinkedIn is an OG. Travis, both of us have been on LinkedIn since 2007, I want to say. It's like we were
2005, 2006, something like that, right?
way back. And it has become the place to find the right person for a job if you're hiring. LinkedIn Jobs is our sponsor, and they make it super easy for you to get matched with quality candidates. They're using AI, they're using all kinds of stuff in their engine to come up with a match for you that's based on people's skills, on their background, but also because social media, you like certain interests or you like certain activities, you got certain passions. They bring all of that into the mix. It's much better than a monster.com because they've just got a lot more data to play with. So the matching system lets you get a group of the most relevant, qualified candidates for your role. That way you spend time talking to just the right people and not wasting it. So you get a quality hire that you're super pumped up about. So LinkedIn Jobs is the place to go. In fact, they've got a great deal for listeners of the Bad Crypto Podcast. You get $50 off your first job post. Go to linkedin.com/Bad Crypto Podcast. Makes sense, right? LinkedIn.com/Bad Crypto Podcast. Terms and conditions do apply. Go check them out and get that quality hire today.
Right now. Do it right now. Right now.
You know what else is right now, Mr. Travis, right?
Brock Pierce right now.
Brock Pierce is right now. It seems like just a few short months ago that we welcomed Brock Pierce to the Republic of Bad Cryptopia for the first time, and he's back, and he's brought a friend. Hey, Brock, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. Today's March 7th, right?
Well, as of this recording, when people are listening to it, it'll be a different day.
Okay, it's good. We've got a new moon today. And spring is almost upon us. The spring equinox is March 20th, which coincidentally is a full moon, exactly. And as I recently tweeted and posted, I've said that the groundhogs are out. I mean, but I don't mean like I saw a groundhog. I'm seeing hundreds of groundhogs. I think winter is officially over, though Game of Thrones final season is next month. But winter is officially over and spring has come early. So I think there's lots to be happy about, and I'm more than happy to explain my reasoning if so desired.
Maybe that means the crypto thaw is coming. For those of you that don't remember, Brock is an entrepreneur and venture capitalist. He has been around this crypto space forever, chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation, co-founder of the EOS Alliance, Block.one, Blockchain Capital, Tether, and Mastercoin, which incidentally was the first ICO. And along with him today, we have an attorney. Don't hold it against us. You can hold it against him if you want. His name is Andrew Rossow. He's a millennial. You can also hold that against him if you want to. He's an author. He's a cyberspace consultant for Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS, all the acronyms. He writes for big publications, and he's working with Brock on a project that is near and dear to Brock's heart, focusing on Mt. Gox and some sort of revival around this. So, Drew, welcome to Bad Crypto.
Thank you guys so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And Brock, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, pleasure to connect with Drew again. I don't think we're working together. Drew and I just met recently. He had reached out to interview me in the context of this Gox Rising, and we had a good conversation about kind of why and what we're doing, why I'm doing it and what we're doing and what we hope to accomplish. And I actually do love the way that he profiled it. He went into kind of Game of Thrones, Star Wars, sort of Jedi analogy. He certainly knows how to push my buttons in a good way. But also, I'm always interested in sort of a legal perspective because this industry, unlike most, actually, I was just writing up some disclosures for some deal and kind of like what the risk factors are. And I was explaining to a young VC this morning how you always over disclose. And he's like, so what would be like, the risk factors and things? Well, I said, regulation. I'm not sure I've seen an industry that's got a bigger risk factor as this one when it comes to, regulatory issues, meaning, and he's like, well, should I write SEC? I said, no, I think I mean all regulatory agencies, and we're talking about many jurisdictions. So I think you just want to write a really, really macro risk factor about how regulation is a huge risk factor as it relates to this business globally. And we could run into risks with many different regulatory agencies in many different jurisdictions, period. So I always enjoy conversations with lawyers and regulators because intellectually, I mean, this is one of the things that as much as we'd like to deny its existence or ignore them, it is not a good strategy to bury your head in the sand like an ostrich and pretend they're not here. It's important to be familiar with the legal issues that your business is facing and even your actions as an individual playing around here. And if you're certainly a business operator, who the regulatory bodies are, what laws exist, and how they're looking at your business. It's a necessary evil of sorts.
You need to protect your assets, right? It's important.
Exactly.
So let's take it way back into the crypto days, Mr. Brock Pierce. Way back to the original Mt. Gox, right? So, I mean, we had one of our very first guests on the show was Jed McCaleb, and he, I guess, founded that way back in the day and then sold it to the dude. And then it crashed, and then all the things were crazy, and then madness happened. But I don't know that a lot of our users really know, or listeners know exactly what happened back in the day on that Mt. Gox story. So if you could maybe sum that up and bring us up to speed to where we are today, that would be awesome.
Mt. Gox was started in 2007. It stands for Magic the Gathering Online Exchange. So Jed McCaleb started this for Magic card trading. I used to be in the game currency sort of trading business. So let's say Mt. Gox was a small competitor of mine prior to Bitcoin being invented or the Genesis block being mined. It eventually pivoted in 2010 to Mt. Gox trading. It was taken over or sold to Mark Karpellis. And it became the most important crypto company in the world through 2010, 11, 12, 13. And it is what really drove the first big wave of Bitcoin's success. And it was also not just responsible for the rise of Bitcoin, but also the fall of Bitcoin. because Mt. Gox went off the rails, had a colossal blow up where all the money, all the Bitcoins went missing. Fortunately, as they went through all the USB sticks and computers and electronics in the office, they found 200,000 Bitcoins laying around. So the story didn't end up with everything gone. And it became the way that most people heard about Bitcoin for the first time. Most of the world heard about Bitcoin for the first time in the context of Mt. Gox collapsing, not the first impression when you meet, the in-laws or the future in-laws, not how you want to be introduced. And so Bitcoin, got off on the wrong foot with more or less the world because it was Mt. Gox was our Lehman Brothers. Mt. Gox was our Bear Stearns. If I challenged you in one word, with one word only, and you wanted to say something really, really bad about Bitcoin or use the name of something from the Bitcoin industry, forget the words like Ponzi or scam or, shitcoin, whatever. If you had to use one name in Bitcoin, and you can use fake Toshi or whatever it is that you want, with one name only, how would you criticize Bitcoin?
That's a good one.
Well, Mt. Gox is one that I think a lot of people could or would use. It's definitely if you want to think of like, what are the bad words? What is like the profane words to criticize? And, if you wanted to put Bitcoin down, Mt. Gox is clearly one of the names you could use. And so I've been very involved in the Mt. Gox saga. I looked at buying the business in 2012 and 2013, almost bought the business twice, joint ventures, etc. And eventually when Mt. Gox collapsed, I called Mark Karpeles the first night, within minutes, maybe hours, probably minutes of Mt. Gox collapsing, and said, Mark, I want to buy the business. And he's like, are you not watching the news? I said, of course I am. That's why I'm calling. He goes, like, what? And you're still interested? And I'm like, I'm still interested because this is going to be very bad for Bitcoin. You and what's happening here could set Bitcoin back by years. I care about Bitcoin as an ecosystem, and you're about to mess it up for all of us. And so I'm here to help.
Did you call him a name too? Did you like Dick? Something's like, you're crashing everything, you jerk.
I needed him to hand over the keys to me at the time, so I could hopefully, I looked at it, it's basically like if you're a firefighter, right? Mm-hmm. And you show up at a building and the building's on fire, the landlord or the tenant, in this case, Mark, is walking out of the door, the building's in flames, and he's got a confused look on his face. He's wearing his bakery outfit, because he was busy making Danish. And went outside for a cigarette. He forgot that he left the stove on and gas running and everything else. And the building blows up. His fault, but he's kind of confused. That's how I dealt with the situation. I basically said, "Hey, Mark, get out of the way. I'm bringing the firemen in. We've got the water cannons, and we're going to go try and do what we can to save, salvage what's done here, and hopefully minimize the damage. Hopefully." The entire burning building doesn't burn down. And more importantly, you don't set the entire neighborhood or city or world on fire.
So many metaphors. I mean, like right there in 30 seconds. Boom.
Jedi mind tricks. All Jedi mind tricks,
Yeah. And so that's kind of where the beginning of, multiple beginnings of my saga, got involved. And then in that process, there were class action lawsuits filed against Mt. Gox on behalf of the 103,000 account holders. I went and settled deals with the class action lawsuits or class action attorneys that represented all the world's creditors. And we made deals to represent the creditors, align the interests. We put together a civil rehabilitation plan, the first civil rehabilitation plan. We filed that with the courts in Japan. We tried to rehabilitate Mt. Gox. The idea was, because bankruptcies can go one of two ways in Japan. Either they go into liquidation, which is where the company says, we are so in over our heads, the government has to take it over and manage it, because there's basically it's just things are that bad. And the government in Japan on average takes 5 to 20 years to resolve any bankruptcy liquidation process. And so I was telling the creditors and telling everyone in early 2014, we do not want a liquidation. We need a civil rehabilitation, because if this goes into liquidation, this is going to take a decade or two to resolve itself. And we do not want that. And I basically I was wearing this shirt that said Save Gox, and I was making these chants, rehabilitate, don't liquidate, rehabilitate. And I was like doing, if you go back and check any of the original media, like this is all the craziness that was going on. And I said to the creditors, because a bunch of creditors are like, no, we need to liquidate it. It needs to be liquidated. It shouldn't be rehabilitated. I said, creditors, that means you're not going to get money for years and years and years. And they're like, liquidate, liquidate. And I'm like, okay, come on, guys. This is not how it works. Study Japanese, sort of law and take a look at, precedent and what's happened historically. But fast forward, good news is the bankruptcy courts last fall decided to rehabilitate the business. And when I say rehabilitate, I don't mean relaunch the exchange, but to take it out of liquidation into rehabilitation, which allows things to get done much more quickly and in a way that's ultimately better for everyone. So 5 years later, we're finally where I wanted us to be 5 years ago. And hopefully we're nearing the end of the Mt. Gox saga. And, just to summarize what's happened, there were 25,000 creditors that have filed claims with the bankruptcy trustee out of 103,000 account holders. All the money was lost. 200,000 Bitcoins were found. Some of those Bitcoins were sold. And so the Mt. Gox estate today has $630 million in Japanese yen equivalent and still has about 140,000 Bitcoin in all those forks that have happened. Mm-hmm. And so the estate has about $1.2 to $1.3 billion in it. So this is no longer a story where all the money is gone. There's actually a sizable sum of money there. And all of these creditors have been waiting years and years and years for their money. And some people, it's my understanding that some people have died over this. Like there are people that are dead as a result of the Mt. Gox bankruptcy. There are marriages that have been, couples that have separated over this. There are homes that have been lost. And so when I use the word victim, I mean, these are not just people that lost some money. When this kind of money is lost, the impact it has on people's lives are, serious. And these are early crypto adopters. These are people that got into Bitcoin between 2010 and 2013 that made an early bet on Bitcoin, and they have not been the beneficiary of the risk they've taken. Instead, they've been tied up in a 5-year process. And it gets me, I get very passionate about this subject because I'm pissed off that creditors have not been made whole yet. And so there's a couple of other things people don't know. Mark Karpelès, through his company Tabane, that he's the 100% shareholder of, has a claim filed with the bankruptcy trustee and the courts, this is public, for 82,000 Bitcoin. So he wants more than half of the Bitcoin paid out to him, and that claim is outstanding. And what's crazier than that, in the last couple months, CoinLab, I don't know if anyone's remembers this company, but CoinLab was another early Bitcoin company. It made a deal with Mt. Gox back in the day, and they failed to live up to their deal. They were in breach of contract, and they embezzled $5 million of Mt. Gox customer funds. They've filed a claim back in 2014, but they updated their claim. In 2014, they said, we believe that we've been screwed over by Mt. Gox, even though we did nothing and we stole money, and we failed to live up to our deal. But we think the estate should pay us $70 million. This is CoinLab. But in the last couple of months, they've updated their claim and they say they're owed $16 billion now. So I don't know what happened between 2014 and 2019 that says their damages have gone from 70 million to 16 billion. But this company CoinLab says creditors should get nothing. So Mark Karpelès is asking for more than half the Bitcoin. And that was kind of like insane by itself. Now CoinLab is saying they deserve everything and creditors should get nothing. And so there are some there's some serious stuff going on here. Mark Karpelès has been convicted of embezzling $3 million of customer funds, over $3 million. So he was using the Mt. Gox customer funds as his personal piggy bank or something, or at least this is what the Japanese courts and law enforcement and judges have decided, and they convicted him of embezzling money. This is aside from, call it mismanagement.
Mm-hmm. And he went to prison, didn't he?
For a separate issue. Now his sentencing, he gets sentenced on March 15th, like in a week. By the way, March 15th is the Ides of March. And so that's an interesting date. This is the day that Julius Caesar, was stabbed and murdered on the Senate floor. So Mark Karpelès' sentencing is on the Ides of March, and he is looking at being sentenced up to 10 years in prison. So he already did 1 year, but that was for other stuff, I guess. And he is about to go back to prison for up to another 10 years for embezzling customer funds.
Et tu, Brocte?
It's time to remunerate and don't rehypothecate or whatever it is we want to do. Okay, so what you're doing is you're leading this movement. The website is goxrising.com, goxrising.com. And you're making a little bit of a stink out there. We got some opposition, but what is this project?
Yeah, so I'm certainly not leading anything. It is not my intention or my goal to be the leader. This is, we are Legion, right? We are all Satoshi. We are all here. Ultimately, we're all one, hopefully trying to make the world a better place.
Making us sound like Borg. We are Borg. We are.
We're all connected, and our futures are. This is the same reason I called up Mark the day that Mt. Gox collapsed. What was good for Bitcoin at the time was good for me. Right. And I saw Mt. Gox collapsing as a very bad thing. And that's back when I only had like 10 or 20 investments in companies in crypto. Now I've got over 100. I maybe it's even closer than 200 now. But what's good for the ecosystem is good for me. Rising tides raise all ships. And because I have an interest in so many companies and so many businesses and so many tokens that I get to basically be a little bit more altruistic, though it's not really altruistic. It is, but it isn't. It's whatever is good for the ecosystem is good for me. I don't care who wins. If you guys are successful, it benefits me in some way. If Mt. Gox is more successful, it benefits me in some way. If Ethereum does well, I do well. If Bitcoin does well, I do well. If Bitcoin Cash does well, I do well. If Bitcoin SV does well, I do well. I kind of do well if the ecosystem does well. And so I'm an unusual player because I don't have the typical bias that most people have. They're attached to their project and the success of their project. I benefit if anyone kind of benefits because I'm in so many things and to varying degrees. Obviously, some things I benefit more than others, but that allows me the freedom to basically just go work on anything I think is beneficial to the ecosystem. And it is in part altruistic. I live my life in service and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to go on a philanthropic rant, but what's going on here? I'm not the leader. I have been very close to Mt. Gox for 7 years. I'm one of the principal players, that if you look at the Mt. Gox saga going back to 2007, before Bitcoin was even created, I'm one of the principal characters in that story. Obviously, through the early days of Bitcoin, a principal player in the Mt. Gox story, having been the guy that almost bought it multiple times and fixed it and this and that. I've had a seat at this table for a long time. And when Mt. Gox collapsed, I was the only person there in fire gear, with a hose, trying to put out the fire, clean up the mess with at the time, Mt. Gox, all the money was missing. All the coins were missing. There was absolutely no way that I would benefit directly from doing that. But I said, someone needs to go put out this fire. Someone needs to make sure this thing doesn't, mess us up worse than, it looks like it's going to. So I was the only group in there in the early days, doing as much work as I could for the benefit of the ecosystem. And I've been here all the way along. And so we're back in rehabilitation, which is what I originally had wanted. And so it's important to me that this story ends properly. I want to see the ending of this end in the way that would be, I don't want CoinLab to get any of the $16 billion they want. I don't want Mark Karpelès to get anything. I don't think he deserves anything. I'm not here to I don't think Mark Karpelès is necessarily a horrible guy. I think he was incompetent. I think he made a lot of mistakes, criminal negligence, things of that nature. But in my time with Mark, I want to be very clear. I don't think he's a bad guy trying to do bad things. I don't believe that what happened here was malicious. I don't believe that he was trying to rip people off. I think that he was just, in way over his head. Obviously, the embezzling of money is kind of more black and white. He shouldn't have been touching customer funds, to pay for his personal things. And the losing of $500 million, I believe, was incompetence, not intentional. So I don't want to overly rag on the poor guy. He's already gone to jail and it looks like he's going back for a long time. So I'm not trying to vilify him any more than he is already being vilified by, call it law enforcement.
You have reached your rag limit where it comes to Mark, right there.
Yeah, I'm not looking to punish the guy. I feel bad for the guy, if anything. I have a lot of sympathy for him. But I want to make sure he doesn't get any of the money. So I have one primary objective, if nothing else in this process, and that is to make sure creditors get everything. And right now, it is not clear that creditors are going to get everything. You have CoinLab trying to take the money. You've got Mark Karpellis' company, Tabane, trying to take a bunch of the money. It's in civil rehabilitation. It is not clear that this is going to end that way. So I'm going to doing my little part. I'm not the leader, but I'm just trying to make sure that creditors get everything, and I'm doing everything in my power to ensure that happens. Then there's one other thing that I want to do, which is a little controversial, and should be controversial. I have this crazy idea of buying the intangibles. And when I mean the intangibles, I mean buying the domain names and the brand. Why would I want to own Mt. Gox? I have this crazy idea that it's a good idea, and most people are going to disagree with me. I want to relaunch Mt. Gox. I want Mt. Gox, the exchange, to go back online. Not obviously the exchange as it was run previously, and not with the same software or the same people, but I want to relaunch Mt. Gox. And this is the controversial idea, which, I mean, it's kind of, this is one that, you could debate for days and months or years about how kind of insane the idea is, because this is our Lehman Brothers. This is our Enron. Is it a good idea to relaunch Lehman Brothers? Is it a good idea to relaunch Bear Stearns? Is it a good idea to relaunch Enron? None of those brands exist today. But I have this crazy idea, and I think it's a good idea to relaunch Mt. Gox. And so I am trying to buy, through the bankruptcy courts, the brand and the domains, and I want to relaunch Mt. Gox, and I want to give the 24,000 creditors an opportunity to own part of that exchange for nothing, as a way of helping to make them more whole. And some people, I mean, again, Mt. Gox is that dirty word. No one wants to hear it. And so when you tell people, I want to relaunch Mt. Gox, some people are like, please, no, that's a horrible idea. I never want to hear that name again. Why would you do? Oh, please, no, no, no. And some people are like, oh my God, you want to resurrect Mt. Gox? You want to take our dirty word, our biggest weakness, and make it into a strength? You want to like a phoenix, rise from the ashes? I think it's a great idea. It's a very controversial idea, and people tend to have strong opinions one way or another. A lot of people are like, please, no, I hate this idea. Whatever you do, no, you can't do this. This is horrible. This is going to be bad for Bitcoin. And some people are like, wow, that's kind of a cool idea. I'd like to see Mt. Gox come back again. I'd like to be able to take our weakness and point it out as a strength. I'd like to be able to tell people that we are different than the financial system. And when our fails, we come back. We bounce back like a phoenix from the dead.
And even in the law with criminal defense that I do, it's the same concept, Brock. And, there are second chances. Somebody who's done a lot of wrong or has given off a very negative impression can come back. It may take time, but they are rehabilitated in a lot of ways. And I think that's a good point of what you're trying to do here, in my opinion.
I want to actually hit on a couple of things, because now I had a buddy of mine who got into Bitcoin at like $10, and then he was on Mt. Gox, and then so then he lost his Bitcoin because he left it on the exchange. And now, wasn't there something recently or like not too long ago where people who had Bitcoin did get some of their refunds back, but they got it back at the price of what it was whenever the Mt. Gox got hacked?
Yeah, so this is one of the great things that's happened, and again, one of the reasons that I've stayed close to the project the last 5 years is when Mt. Gox got hacked, the price of Bitcoin at the time was roughly $450, and the bankruptcy courts in Japan, this is early 2014. They can't say creditors are owed X number of Bitcoin or fractions of Bitcoin. Japan doesn't recognize at the time that Bitcoin is money or currency or has value even, right? And so when you're a bankruptcy court in 2014, you have an obligation to list out the creditors, right? And what are the creditors owed? You need to tally up liabilities, assets, and all that good stuff. And so the bankruptcy court did what anyone would do at the time, and they used a concept in finance known as mark to market, right? And so they said, what was the value of Bitcoin at the time of its collapse, and what is the US dollar equivalent, basically in Japanese yen? Mm-hmm. And they said, okay, creditors had this much Bitcoin in their account. This is the value of Bitcoin at the time. Now I'm going to list out every creditor and how much they're owed. And it was marked down in Now, what happened, and this is one of those really weird cases, a majority, over 75% of the money went missing. And so the liabilities were vastly greater than the assets. But between the bankruptcy process when it started to today, the price of Bitcoin went up a lot. And Mt. Gox went from being very insolvent to actually having a surplus of assets. This is kind of like if you went into bankruptcy, but you owned a piece of land and they the Beverly Hills Billies, you shot your shotgun and all of a sudden oil started coming out of the ground. So you owed $1 billion. You owed $1 million, or let's use bigger numbers. You owed $500 million to the bank, and you had this $50 million piece of land. And while you were in bankruptcy, they discovered that there was, $4 billion of oil in the ground or $10 million of oil in the ground. All of a sudden, you went from being upside down $400 million to all of a sudden having a surplus, or you found a gold mine on your property. This is very rare. This is not normal in bankruptcy proceedings, where a company goes into bankruptcy being deeply insolvent to all of a sudden being solvent and having a surplus of assets. I mean, there's not many examples of this. So
they just found those 200,000 Bitcoin or whatever on some wallet in a desk somewhere, and they're like, "Oh my God, look! 200,000 Bitcoin."
Well, no, that was found pretty early on. So it got marked. Okay, there's 200,000 Bitcoin, and creditors are owed blank $450 per Bitcoin. The crazy thing is there went from nothing to here's 200,000 Bitcoins. Here's what they're worth, and this is what creditors are owed. Oh, wait, Bitcoins are now worth $14,000. I mean, this is one of the most unusual bankruptcy proceedings ever. I mean, this is one that eventually movies are going to be made about this. I mean, Hollywood, as I understand it, has been trying to option this story. I think there's multiple scripts that have already been written about Mt. Gox. I mean, this is going to end up in books. This is going to end up as a movie, whether or not I got involved at all. So we can pretend Mt. Gox never happened. We can tell ourselves, let's try to erase it from the history books, but we can't do that. Mt. Gox is a big deal. It is a big story. But like most Hollywood screenwriters and most book publishers, they are waiting to publish the story, and they don't want to do it until it's over. We're in it's like Game of Thrones. The last season still isn't over. The story's not finished yet. So you can't publish the book. They're waiting for the ending. And so this story is getting done. I mean, Hollywood is making this movie. This has already been planned for years. The book deals have already been optioned for years. The question is, we as an industry have the power to write the ending. And I'd rather have an ending that shows, Bitcoin as being triumphant, that is a phoenix rising from the ashes, the resurrection story where creditors get all their money back, and it has a happy ending, a hero's journey, a Joseph Campbell sort of finish, versus the story where the villain Coin Lab takes all the money and creditors get nothing. Or Mark Karpeles goes to prison, but he gets 80,000 Bitcoin and he's in jail for 10 years. But when he gets out, he's going to be living like a king. What kind of story do we want? I want the story to be creditors got everything. This isn't Lehman Brothers. This isn't Bear Stearns. Bitcoin is anti-fragile. Bitcoin is resilient. Bitcoin is a community that, comes together and rises up, together. I want to have a grand finale. And that's why I'm so motivated by this, is we have the power as an industry to write the end of this story. And the end of the Mt. Gox story is kind of the Bitcoin story. They're kind of linked. When I did the last poll, it's not that today, but I did a poll back when, Mt. Gox first collapsed. 96% of people that had heard of Bitcoin had heard of Mt. Gox. They were literally synonymous terms. That number today is probably like 50-50, but like 50% of the people that I talked to that have heard of Bitcoin have heard of Mt. Gox. So it's still a synonymous term in a lot of ways. So what happens to Mt. Gox does in a way tell the story of Bitcoin. And I'd like to be able to tell a great story. I'm a storyteller. I came from Hollywood. So my view is, let's make this a magical ending. Let's make this a happy ending. Let's make this, a story of Bitcoin winning and the Bitcoin community winning, and not a story of, where Hollywood makes this and it becomes the story of like how Bitcoin is bad and how the bad guys always win. And look at why you shouldn't touch Bitcoin. Look at how, I want this to be a story that says, look at Bitcoin as triumphant and we, the people, are the winners, versus Bitcoin is bad and it's evil and you shouldn't touch it. And the story is either going to be one with a really bad ending or a happy ending. We get to choose.
So, two-part question for you then. One part is, who do you want to play you in the film? But more importantly is, what needs to happen for all this to take place? The movement is going, and you're bringing awareness even right here, right now. But what needs to happen?
So a bunch of things need to happen. So I guess back to the storyline. And since we have Drew on the phone here or on this podcast, I really liked his analogy. I didn't come up with this. He came up with this because as I told this sort of story, much less refined than probably the way that I just told you, because I've now told it a couple of times. It is a very Star Wars-esque story. This is kind of like it's a battle between, the Sith and the Jedi. I'd like this to be a story that ends with the Jedi winning. And so I think that's kind of what's at stake here. In terms of actors, he's too old. He's too old right now. But the actor that I would love to play me is obviously Johnny Depp, in the sense that he wears hats and he's a bit of an eccentric dude. But we might need someone a little bit younger. I'm not close enough to Hollywood these days to know kind of who would be the right actors. But now that you've planted that seed with me, I will give more thought to it. By the way, I know who I would want to play Mark Karpeles. I think Mark Karpeles should be. I view Mark Karpeles, and I really again. I don't mean to rag on him. I shouldn't have gone down this rabbit hole. You asked the question about actors.
Too late.
So I guess I have to finish my point. But I view the Mark Karpeles story as Rain Man. I view Mark Karpeles as basically kind of like an autistic guy.
Kmart stocks.
But no, I view Mark as he's not intelligent. Kind of like Richard Dreyfuss's character in Rain Man. He's smart. He's a CTO. He's technically competent, but he was just in over his head. He doesn't understand how like the rest of the world works, and that's why he ran into problems. You don't let Rain Man run a company. You take him to the blackjack table and let him count cards and make money off him. And there are a few people that are trying to monetize, sort of Mark Karpeles these days. I'll avoid mentioning their characters. They got to leave some surprises out there. But I definitely know who gets to play Tom Cruise in this story. And in that story, Tom Cruise is the bad guy. He's the one. I mean, well, not bad. He's just the one that's taking advantage of his brother and his talents in a very sort of sleazy way. And so, you're giving me thought. I'm going to have to start thinking about the movie because I do. I grew up in the entertainment business, so I know lots of people in Hollywood, and I know what's going on in Hollywood. And this story has been being fought over by screenwriters for years. This story is coming out whether we like it or not. And this is part of the reason I care so much. So I've never really pointed this out, I think, in previous interviews. So what was the other piece of the question? That's the entertainment side.
Yeah, what needs to happen?
What needs to happen? Obviously, what are the key sort of milestones? Well, for my role in this to continue, because I might just be a character that dies off at this point, right, in the storyline, because I'm doing what I can. I will clearly continue to do everything in my power to support creditors getting paid. But the ending, as far as my role is concerned, is dependent upon us successfully buying the intangible assets, the brand and domain name. So the only real thing that is core to me, other than doing what I can to steward the right outcome and challenge the coin labs and, stop the Mark Karpeleses from, their claims being approved. And I don't have any authority. It's a bankruptcy trustee and the bankruptcy courts and legal proceedings that ultimately decide that. All I'm doing is creating awareness. Most of the creditors didn't realize that Mark Karpeles had a claim for 82,000 Bitcoin. Like he kind of kept this a secret. It's been hidden from most people. It's not been talked about. And the Coin Lab $16 billion claim, creditors didn't even know about that. I was actually in Japan a month and a week ago, and I went to meet up with Mark Karpeles, And I was asking Mark, I'm like, Mark, let's go through the creditor stuff. He's like, yeah, that 82,000 Bitcoin, that's me. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Interesting that you're just so honest about it. But he's actually he's a very honest guy. If you ask him a direct question, he kind of, even if it's not in his, he doesn't know how to plead the fifth, which is an interesting thing because he should plead the fifth probably half of the time when he opens his mouth. But I said, who's this $16 billion claim? I assume it's CoinLab that's just updated their $70 million claim because this is crazy. Who is making a $16 billion claim? He goes, I don't know. No one knows. I go, how do we find out? I was at his offices, PIA. He works with this guy, Kim Nielsen or something like that. And so they work together at this firm PIA. They're a VPN network. And so Mark Karpeles is the CTO now of this VPN network known as PIA or Private Internet Access or something like that. They're a big VPN. At least he works there probably for another week. And so Mark's like, I don't know. I go, well, how do we find out? He goes, well, we could go to the courthouse right now. I'm allowed access to the court documents. I go, really? He's like, yeah. I go, let's go. He goes, now? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, let's go. He's like, let's see what time it opens. He's like, oh, the court, because it was a morning meeting. He's like, oh, yeah, the courts aren't open yet. I said, well, let's wait 30 minutes and let's go to the courthouse. And so we went over to the courthouse together. We rode to the courthouse. I took some phone calls outside. He went in. It took like 2 hours because I don't know what the problem was, big delays in the courthouse. And after 2 hours, he's like, I got him. I'm like, awesome. And so we met up outside. We jumped back in the car together. And he's like, yeah, it's CoinLab. CoinLab is asking for $16 billion. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then, so
that'd be Peter Vicenes then?
Well,
he was the CEO.
Yeah, Peter Vicenes was the founder and CEO of CoinLab. I'm not sure if he's still the CEO. My guess is he is. But yeah, Peter Vicenes is the main character. So we'll have to figure out. Well, I'm going to ask you, turn it around on you guys. Who should play the role of Peter Vicenes?
No idea. I want to throw a wrench in this, right? Because I was on Reddit a couple days ago, and there was a big post about you in this whole deal. Did you get a chance to see it?
Yeah, I'm going to be posting a response later today, point by point, of kind of this craziness. So some anonymous person made a post on Reddit saying that they know me. Which I find to be impossible. But they made this crazy claim saying that I have a secret agenda and I'm trying to steal all the money, which is kind of insane. I'm a success.
I want to read a couple of this because it was like I was like, wow, this is some drama. And if we're going to have Brock on here, I want him to clear the air on this. They said that he basically is like that you're creating this massive scam to get the brand Mt Gox and to get all this stuff. And he goes, the users will be paid back in the prior value of Bitcoin, not the current value of Bitcoin. For example, around the time it was 600 Bitcoin or so, now it's 3,800. So if we figure 200,000 Bitcoins, then Brock's going to net $540 million in profit. And then you have the Bitcoin Cash hard fork. Those 200,000 Bitcoins are hard forks. There's another 24 million. And then there's $560 million at current value. And then he says that Brock has said over and over that he's going to pay back the users. He goes, also be clear, Brock never owned Mt. Gox. There was never an asset sale or a company sale. There is no document proving this. Brock says he has a letter of intent. However, even if he does have this, there is nothing to do with selling Mt. Gox. An intent contract is not an asset, blah, blah, blah. Also, he has retained the services of Correct the Net Systems. This means astroturfing of Reddit, Twitter, and are well underway. There's a pro-Brock army out there fully paid to create all this PR. And so the big plan is, reason Brock is doing these public campaigns is because he wants a vote to be done via Mt. Gox customers. He wants to build a vote list and bring this to court. He wants to state the 4,529 customers of Mt. Gox are in support of me owning it. And actually, it's a viable strategy, but he's misleading users, blah, blah, blah. He says he wants a vote. They will get no money, and Brock promises me money. As it stands, Brock might win. And so there's somebody out there who is like actively campaigning against you in this process because they think that you're going to get a $500 million.
Well, I mean, I actually hadn't read it closely yet, so thank you for actually reciting most of it. It's a couple of things are clear. Whoever it is that wrote it is not very familiar with the sort of Mt. Gox process. I now you've helped. By the way, hearing that was actually really helpful, because the number in the bankruptcy courts was $450, not $600. So clearly, the person that wrote this is not following what's going on at Mt. Gox very closely, or their numbers would be like, I mean, these are kind of known numbers. You wouldn't write 600 when it's 450. And anyone that's close to this process, or anyone that's following it closely, or anyone that's very involved would know those sorts of things. There's just a lot of like very amateur data points in there that shows that this person doesn't really know what they're talking about, first of all. So that's good to know. So there's someone they're talking out of their ass, clearly trying to accuse me of a bunch of things, which is like odd. First of all, I have made it very clear time and time again that I'm not interested in getting one penny out of the process, that I want creditors to receive everything. As a result of that, I had my lawyers draft something up, which I hope to get out later today, which is a legal document that is binding that I submit to the bankruptcy trustee, that says under no circumstance ever will I be able to get a penny, even if everything goes in a way that would allow me to, that I am donating everything to the creditors. And so I have a fully legal document that gets submitted to the bankruptcy courts to ensures and proves forever that first of all, that's just impossible. A, I never said anything like that. B, I've never had any plan like that, and anyone that knows me knows otherwise. And to make it provable, I am filing something, probably tomorrow or whatever, Monday, but the legal document I'll share with the net tonight, hopefully, shows that I legally will not be able to take anything in. By the way, I've also added to that document that's going to get released, Mark Harpelis. I should include Peter Vicenis on as well, and basically encourage all three of us to do that, because CoinLab says there's three parties here that matter, right? Behind door number 1, you've got Brock Pierce. Behind door number 2, you've got Mark Harpelis. Behind door number 3, you've got Peter Vicenis. And the question is, which of these three parties want to screw the creditors? Is it all three of us? Are we working together? Is it one of us? Is it none of us? Are we all good guys? Well, CoinLab still has their claim for $16 billion and is clearly not going to back down on their claim. So I think it's pretty clear that CoinLab is a villain in this case, and they are trying to screw the creditors. I think that's indisputable. Mark Harpelis.
There's a lot of comments on there that says that he's the villain, because for seriously, even with Bitcoin worth 38.50 right now, those 200 million Bitcoin, or 200,000 Bitcoin, is worth $770 million. So how in the hell is this guy saying $16 billion? That's just ridiculous.
Well, I think he made some. I don't understand the thesis behind the claim, but I'm guessing it goes a little something like this: had Mt. Gox not failed, and had our deal with Mt. Gox worked out, and had we not breached our contract, and had we not embezzled $5 million, had we done something, and had everything worked out, we believe that we would have made $70 million. And that's where the original claim comes from. Now, the updated claim is they're going, wow, that was Bitcoin in 2014. Let's look at Bitcoin in 2019. Now, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is a huge industry. So if Mt. Gox had not failed, and everything had gone really well, and we'd actually done something and done our job and executed perfectly and been the best operators the world's ever seen, we think that we would be Coinbase, but bigger than Coinbase. We would be at least twice the value of Coinbase. Coinbase's last valuation was $8 billion. And so they're saying that CoinLab should be worth at least double Coinbase. And that has to be where their logic is coming from.
Sounds like some serious sour grapes.
Well, but my attitude is, if you're going to say that you would be twice as valuable as Coinbase, you might as well say you're Facebook too, and Google while you're at it. You might as well make a claim for $1 trillion and just say you'd be the entire new internet.
Well, then you're getting into bad crypto territory, and we know they're not close to us yet.
So behind door number 3, you've got Peter Vicenis. So the question is, good guy, bad guy, relative to the creditors. Behind door number 2, you've got Mark Harpelis. So Mark is telling everyone that he's a saint, and he's telling everyone that he wants creditors to get everything, and that he is doing what he can to help creditors. But while at the same time, he literally has a claim through Tabane for 82,000 Bitcoin, and he gets sentenced for embezzling $3 million plus of customer funds on the Ides of March 15th. So I have sympathy for Mark, but would I trust him? Absolutely not. And with his claims and embezzlement and prison and all those things, I think that we should assume the worst, even, hope for the best, but assume the worst, right? Plan for the worst. I think that you want to challenge that claim for those 82,000 Bitcoins, and we should be fighting tooth and nail to make sure that he doesn't get those 82,000 Bitcoin. So behind door number one is myself. Am I a good guy? I'm a bad guy? Should you trust me? Not, that's up to you. Don't trust me. I'm not asking for anybody's trust. I don't need anybody's trust. I'm not trying to tell you to trust me. Form your own opinion. Think for yourself. That is always my advice. I want what's best for creditors. You may or may not believe that. I am going to file a document with the bankruptcy trustee to ensure that under no circumstances could I ever get any of that money. No matter what happens, I get zero as it relates to all of the customer funds. So I'm about to prove through filings with the bankruptcy courts that my intentions are pure and that under no circumstances can I ever get anything. So that whoever made this post clearly didn't plan for the fact that I'm going to file. I can respond to that. Okay, great. Thank you for putting into question my intention. Thank you for raising the bar and making me raise the bar and jump higher. Great. I will go prove it. And I'm going to file something with the bankruptcy courts as soon as possible. You'll see the documents tonight. And I get nothing, period. And that is filed with the bankruptcy courts. Now, let's see if we can get Mark Karpellis to do the same. And let's see if we can get Peter Vicentis to do the same. If all three of us do that, the creditors win. So as creditors, as Bitcoiners, as the community, we should all be fighting for the three of us. It's not a matter of which ones of us are good guys or bad guys. Assume we're all bad guys. Let's make all of us sign this document, and we will see whose intentions are pure. This is basically when you sign this document, you have proven your intention. Let's prove our intention.
Maybe we should, Travis. Maybe we should get Mark and Peter on to come and talk about this as well.
Maybe we should get the UFC on board and get them in the octagon.
Cage match, right? What a story! And I just want, when the movie does come out, I think that this broadcast should be written into the script somewhere. And Drew, you've been hanging out here listening. Love to get your input on what Brock said.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just starting off, and this is where I don't know if you will hate me as an attorney or despise me as an attorney, but playing devil's advocate as even against the victims in this. This has been one of the biggest educational use cases in the history of the space. It's forcing everyone to take a hard, close look at what the hell this currency is about. What is this space really about? How does it operate? How do exchanges work? How are they supposed to work? And the people that are running these exchanges, the investors, what are we all supposed to be doing in our roles, and what happens when somebody steps out of line? I think Brock, in what he's doing, is taking, as he said a number of times, a very dangerous path, a path that most people wouldn't take. But the reasoning behind it, I think somebody has to. And it takes somebody with a lot of knowledge, a lot of courage, and that kind of aptitude to say, hey, something needs to be done. If I'm going to be vilified, so be it. But somebody, no matter who it is, somebody's going to be vilified. And that's just how it is. And it's a shame that that's what the mindset is. But this is what this new age of digital money is. This is a whole new bubble. We're watching the birth of a whole new currency, of a whole new technology, and we're watching the players play the game.
I think the moral of the story is I think all of us wish that we could just, look in one of our office drawers and find 200,000 Bitcoin. That's the big thing.
or even the 55 that's on your hard drive, Travis.
Yeah, my 55 that I originally mined back in 2010 that I threw away on a computer. That was great too.
That's a good question too, is how many Bitcoins are actually, of the 21 million, how many are, what percentage have been lost?
What do you think that is? What number do you believe it is?
Well, it's got to be more than 1 million. It might be more than 2 million. It could be potentially as high as 3 million. I don't believe it's more than 4 million. So I think it's between 1 and 4, probably call it 2 to 3. Maybe let's go with pi. I think that's an overstatement. So I'm overestimating, and I say that knowingly, but I like the number, and we're almost there. March 14th is Pi Day. So let's go with Pi Day and 3.1415 and all the decimals, right?
Who doesn't like pi?
So that would mean that of the 17.5 roughly million Bitcoins that have been mined, 3.1 are missing, 14.4 are out there in the wild. How many of those you think are being hodled? Actually, how many do you think are actively being traded? Because I think most people seem to be holding their crypto or their Bitcoin and not trading it. So what percentage of the numbers do you think is actually being traded in Bitcoin?
Yeah, these are things where we can go get that data, and I should go look up to see what Bitcoin all the Bitcoins that are out there have moved. We can look at trading volume, obviously, that's on exchanges. Bitcoin is trading.
Some of that can be manipulated, though. Some of that Bitcoin volume can be faked, right? Or at least look like their exchange is super voluminous, but it's not.
Yes.
Sometimes, right? There's like BitMEX and whatnot.
We just want to know how many you have, bro.
I can try and give you a little bit of insight. So the largest buyer and seller of Bitcoin in the world, the biggest trader, by far the biggest, and maybe one of the biggest, if not the biggest holder of Bitcoin, is let's just call it one of my closest friends. And so the biggest trader in the world, and the dynamic and the visibility you see when you buy or sell $1 billion of Bitcoin, you learn about how the market really works. And I've had the pleasure of a front row seat to seeing billions of dollars of Bitcoin bought and sold through OTC markets, through exchanges, through this, through that. It doesn't take a crazy number to move the market. I mean, if you try to buy or sell $100 million of the Bitcoin, you're going to move the market. Even though there's about 10 billion a day of trading volume. But $100 million moves the market. $10 million, not so much. And by the way, a couple of years ago, $10 million would move the market. So the market is continuing to mature. We go through, cycles that are a little bit up, down. But this might be a good area to close on. We talked about Groundhog Day. I believe that winter is over and spring has come early. And so the question is, why do I say that? And why do I say it with such confidence? I'm not speculating. I'm not someone that speculates on price or when the markets are going to come back or down. I say, I don't know what I don't know. I hope soon, but I have no idea. I'm saying with a high degree of confidence that winter is over. So why do I think crypto winter has ended? Almost no one is looking at this data. But this data point there's multiple data points, but this one in particular is a big, big deal. And it's not reported on nearly enough, nor do people understand or comprehend how big a deal it is. About 2 weeks ago, there's an organization called Cambridge Associates that released their report. Cambridge Associates is the most important firm in the world at telling pensions and endowments, Harvard, Yale, the teachers' unions, all these organizations, right? What they have to do with their money and what they have to invest in. And they make the recommendation. Cambridge Associates is the closest thing to the word of God to big institutional capital. And so something crazy happened 2 weeks ago. Cambridge Associates said that everybody needs to have crypto and blockchain as part of their portfolio for the major institutions. So right now, Yale just put some money in a fund. We've got Fidelity. We've got JP Morgan. We've got 10 big institutions that are touching crypto. Cambridge Associates just told the world that they have to have crypto exposure, which means that if as a Harvard endowment or as the teachers union, as the California Teachers Union or whatever it might be, if they don't invest in crypto or blockchain and things go really well, they probably get fired. But if they do invest in crypto and or blockchain and they lose money, they probably keep their jobs. Again, Cambridge Associates, what they say matters. So we're going to go from 10 institutions being part of this to thousands. Now, these institutions move slowly, so it's only been 2 weeks. So you're going to watch this happen over the next 3, 6, 12, 24 months. But they recommended, I think, about 30 to 50 basis points of exposure, which means $300 billion of capital is coming into crypto because of that release. And that $300 billion is more, crypto's at about 130 billion market and aggregate market cap right now. That number, we have $300 billion coming in. So buckle your seatbelts. Things are get ready for a good time.
That's really interesting because we've chatted a lot about this in the past. It was like in 2014, there was about on average $15 million a day traded in crypto, and then in 2015 it like 3x, 40 something million dollars a day in crypto. Then in 2016 it was around $200 million a day. Then in 2017 it 10x to $2 billion a day. Then last year at 5x to about $10 billion a day, maybe a little bit more, depending, 12 billion. And then right now, so far this year, it's on average around 20 to $30 billion a day is being traded in crypto. So that's like a hockey stick. That thing is just, the adoption is growing. Even though the price is down, the volumes are going up. And if you're talking about $300 billion coming into the market, there could be some days where those numbers are just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's gone up. And Tether, by the way, on a number of days is now surpassed Bitcoin. So Bitcoin and Tether are back to back, neck and neck for being the number one position of most traded token. Tether's doing now about $3.5 trillion a year of trading volume, which says that there's going stable coins. Well, Tether's right now in the process of surpassing Bitcoin. Which means, stable coins are going to become the biggest thing. That's guaranteed, I think, at this point. And we're going to be seeing tens of trillions or hundreds of trillions of dollars of trading in traditional assets on this technology in the coming years.
And make sure that us lawyers get to stay around, too. It keeps us on our toes.
Well, on that note, optimistic. Thanks for sharing with us, Brock and Drew. The website, Goxrising.com, and we're going to look forward to watching this play out. And I want to see this movie when this film comes out. This is going to be a big one. So thanks, fellas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May the force be with you.
With us all.
May the force be with you. Remember to walk in the light. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Bad Crypto. Peace.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Brock and Andrew. Boy, the dude never fails to deliver, does he? Just so much information, and you wind him up and watch him go, and he just you could step away from the mic and go walk around the block, and he's still talking because he's got so much to say.
I did that. I actually asked him a question, and then I went to the restroom. I came back. He was still talking because then I knew that you would have a question, and then he would most likely still be talking. And so he's just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, my goodness, it is exactly it. You wind him up, he's going to roll. He is an educator and an entertainer and an entrepreneur, and he's very passionate about the space. And we asked him some tough questions, and he delivered. I think that it looks like from our perspective, it looks like his heart's in the right place, trying to help Mt. Gox become whole and everybody who was part of that, get their crypto back, right? Because it was like the crypto Lehman Brothers when that crashed, and I remember that was actually that was one of the times again where I came back to crypto because I got in it early and then I went away and then oh, it crashed, what does that mean? And I went and researched it, and then oh yeah, well, see, it's dead, it's a fad, told you guys. And yeah, it's good stuff.
What do we know, Travis? I mean, after all, we're just
two dudes talking crypto. Two dudes talking crypto. Joel and Travis are just two dudes talking crypto. Oh, yeah.
By the way, when you asked that question, went up to go to the bathroom, we actually talked about you. We knew that you were there. And so you hadn't heard the answer. And we were just talking trash about you. We said that Travis, he's got no diggity.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Did you help me bag it up?
Well, there was no diggity to bag up. I don't know.
Oh, well,
I don't get that. I don't understand that. Okay, you need to explain this to me. Right? Mm-hmm. That song, there's no diggity. So, and then they're like, you got to bag it up. Well, I'm like, if you had extra diggity, then you would bag it up. It's like a to-go, like a doggy bag, a doggity bag. But yeah, there was no diggity. So what are you going to bag up?
I don't know. Maybe they were talking about dig tokens. They're like, you got to bag them up because that is no diggity.
I still have a bag of diggity.
You got to bag that up,
and it's worthless. It's like at one point I think my dig was worth several thousand, and now it's worth like a couple $100. And it's just
it was like my XP. My XP at one point was worth $8,000. Now my XP is worth $190. I can never actually get it out of my wallet to work. That's how good the project was.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I think no fault of Jason Brink, whose idea the project was. I think that the project got kind of taken away from him That happens. Like there's shady stuff that goes on anywhere there's money, right? And anywhere people want to exert power. And so there's some projects that are really good projects that end up going bad because some of the people involved make some bad decisions.
Yeah, no diggity.
There's nothing to bag up. It's
That's true.
No diggity, not a bag.
Yeah. Speaking of amazing crypto projects, make sure to go to badcoin.net and sign up for the wait list because we're relaunching Badcoin blockchain, which is a hybrid multi-chain of 5 different blockchain algorithms. We did tell Mr. Brock Pierce about it. He's going to do his due diligence and check into it, and is having a conversation with Marshall about, oh, really? Is this interesting? Is this legit or not? Well, Marshall Long was part of it, so it should be legit as it can get. So Badcoin will be here and live. So make sure to go to your Open Ledger BitShares wallet. And if you ever had some Badcoin, if you ever had a BitShares wallet, or if you had a BitShares wallet in mid 2018, we did a huge airdrop. So like almost 50,000 people have Badcoin.
Yeah,
So
and if you don't have your keys, we can't help you retrieve them. It's like any other crypto. When you open a wallet, they always say, save your keys. We can't get to it. We don't actually, while we are certainly hodling some Badcoin, this is open source code. We don't own the project. It belongs to all of y'all to go and mine it. So when the swap time comes, and it is a coming, swap time's a coming, then you need to have your keys to get to your Badcoin. And that's
true. If you do not have your BitShares username and password, no diggity.
Yep. And you can't
bag it up
but you should bat it up. Gonna bat it up by staying bad, whether or not you got diggity. And you got no diggity.
Stay bad.
Travis has got no diggity.
I got some diggity. Stay bad.
No, you don't have any diggity. I saw you last week, and I'm like, hey, can I borrow some diggity? And you said no diggity.
Well, I think I might have bagged it up earlier.
That's why you had none, because you bagged it up, and then you got no diggity.
That's what happens.
See, they got it backwards.
All I know is our Uber driver. We mentioned that to the Uber driver, and he thought that was hilarious. He was like, yeah, what's up with that? Where's the diggity?
Somebody go review us and give us some diggity, would you, please?
And bad diggity.
Okay, still stay bad.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor.
The new DQ Summer Blizzard menu is finally here. But this isn't the only sound a Blizzard treat makes. These Summer Blizzard flavors sound like jumping off the high dive, a night drive with the windows down, that scraping noise at the bottom of the cup as you scoop up the last delicious bite. That's what these Blizzard flavors sound like. And nothing sounds better than new flavors like Brownie Dough and Caramel Cannonball, and fan favorites like Cotton Candy, all on the new Summer Blizzard menu.
DQ, happy tastes good.